All right, so I would like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Filling Your Cup During COVID, Self-Care Practices in Librarianship, and our guest speaker, Sam Helmick. Excuse me. I know that times are hectic and there are a lot of things vying for our attention right now, so I really appreciate everyone taking the time to be with us here today. This webinar is provided from the network of the National Library of Medicine, Greater Midwest Regional Office, hosted at the University of Iowa. My name is Bobby Newman, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the Community Engagement and Outreach Specialist for the Greater Midwest region, and I work to connect librarians across the country with health information. This webinar does provide one continuing education credit from the Medical Library Association. I do not have that code. I will email it out as soon as I get it from them. It is also being recorded and will be available to everyone who registered on our YouTube channel in 1 to 2 weeks after this. You may not be familiar with the network of the National Library of Medicine, so I want to start with our parent organizations. The National Institutes of Health is the nation's leading research agency and includes 27 offices and institutions. Right now, you may be most familiar with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, where Dr. Fauci works. The National Library of Medicine is one of the 27 institutes and is one of the world's largest biomedical libraries and provides online resources such as PubMed and Medline Plus. The network of the libraries of National Library of Medicine includes 8 regional offices across the country that work to perform outreach and education in their areas. The Greater Midwest region is one of those regions. And with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and hand things over to Sam, who has a great session planned for us today.
Well, good morning or afternoon. I am just incredibly humbled and honored to be spending this time in this space with you all today. I know that this moment will never be replicated again, and so I just, I thank you for it and I honor it. And now we're gonna transition. My name is Sam Helmick and my pronouns are they, them. I am the Community and Access Services Librarian at the Iowa City Public Library. I have served in this capacity for approximately 4 months. Before then, I was the Public Services Manager at the Burlington Public Library in Southeast Iowa for about 12 years. My side hustles include marketing instruction at our local community college in Burlington, as well as writing some social marketing books. I serve on the Governor's Iowa Commissions of Libraries currently and represent the chapter of Iowa as the American Library Association Councilor. When I'm not working on library things, I love to bake, I love to cosplay. Even though we are not meeting and gathering in conventions right now, I still find opportunities and I enjoy running 5Ks. And I'm really interested in these virtual 5Ks that I'm learning more and more about during the pandemic. And here's a place you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. So I would like to offer a disclaimer. I am a librarian by profession and training, and the content that we're talking about today is not intended to be a substitute for any professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. This is just me sharing my journey and tips that have worked for me and colleagues during these unprecedented times, and I would always encourage you to seek advice from your physician or other medical care providers. Because this is a large topic, I kind of want to talk about the destinations on our journey. Today, I'm going to be speaking with you about full presence, how we try to restore our mental energy, how we replenish our physical health, ways we can support social well-being, and then just overall trying to navigate this environment together with what we've kind of discussed today. So as we begin, full presence has really helped me when I am trying to fill my cup during these times. And what that means is that I'm living in the moment. I'm absolutely, again, delighted to just be here in this moment with you and just taking in the magnitude of what it is and embracing the calm when I can. It can be a little difficult to speak publicly, but embracing that calm and realizing that this is an opportunity for us to gather as library workers and colleagues and learn from each other is a really wonderful objective to try to meet in the morning. And so that helps. And realizing our objectives while we're trying to be fully present is important. Some of my objectives is to make sure that you can hear me, that my body language is open, that you feel like you can walk away from the next few minutes after we're done with each other today with something to talk about, something to try, something to contribute to someone else. I try to be precise in what I'm trying to achieve in that moment. And sometimes those moments are very microscopic. Sometimes those moments are being fully present in an email and not thinking about what it will be the reply to that email. Sometimes being fully present in a meeting and not thinking about even the next bullet points on the agenda. It's just allowing time to be what it is. So I'm impervious to the past and allowing it to just be the past. And I'm not allowing the future to dictate my moment in this time. It kind of reminds me of Tolstoy's short story called The Three Questions. A new king, was trying to find out what was the most important time and what was the most important thing to be doing with one's life and who were the most important people. And he finally sought the wisdom of a wise old man digging ditches. And essentially the wise old man told the king, remember, there is only one time that is important. It is now. It is the most important time because it is the only time when we have any power. And so being fully present is capturing and taking ownership of your power in this moment. And I've noticed that it's really helped me during a time where in our profession and in our world in general, power can feel like non-existent and stripped from you. So some tips for full presence include my pre-morning. Before I wake up, I am using game theory to try to help my next day succeed. Sometimes that means packing lunches so I don't have to decide on what I'm eating. Sometimes that means laying out clothes so I'm not using any mental energy on making that decision. But it's also theming. I like to theme my days. Sometimes my day is going to have a joyful theme. Sometimes my day tomorrow is going to have a gratitude theme, a creativity theme, a patience theme. And so I just give myself a focus and a goal to achieve the coming day. And I add it to my checklist. So pre-meeting, pre-interaction with a patron, pre-conversation with leadership, pre-email sometimes, I allow myself the opportunity to just breathe. I allow myself the opportunity to kind of stretch and meditate. Sometimes I'm meditating on an agenda. Sometimes I'm meditating on that themed word. And I just allow myself to be fully present before going to the next step. I also have found, and this is actually a tip I learned from a couple of library mentors, try to find gratitude in each moment. It's really great to anchor yourself with an objective. So if I am looking for something in this moment to be thankful for, it keeps me here. So if I, for example, in this moment, we're looking for things to be thankful for, it's that the Wi-Fi and electricity are still working. I have this nice chair that is holding my laptop so I can sit face to face with you with my legs crossed comfortably on the floor. I'm grateful for the water around my eyes so my eyeballs aren't itchy. I can really find granular tips to be grateful, and it can help me to kind of find myself back in this moment. And then there's pre-scripted pausing to keep you in this moment. When I'm scripting and theming my days, I know there will be moments where I need to be silent, that I need to lean into the Zoom meeting and touch my ear, lean out and make sure that I am looking directly at the camera and not at everybody else in the meeting, but trying to engage the speaker and making sure that I have open body language. I'm giving myself an opportunity to think rather than react. And then I try to negotiate wins. Phone calls are going to happen. Unexpected closings, all kinds of things are going on in our profession right now that are incredibly difficult to predict or navigate. And so sometimes I will negotiate my wins in full presence. And so sometimes my wins are when I'm articulating things to my team, there will be space for them to ask as many questions as they want and realize that we may need to emotionally process this either separately or together. And if I can build in that time, then that's a win, even if the information I'm sharing beyond my control is not. And then I occasionally will do a project postmortem where I will go look at my sent folder and I will see where I could have done things better. And this is the moment where I pivot from full presence to allowing myself to imagine a stronger future where I can grow. Next, we're going to talk about mental energy. Essentially, I'm defining it as a mood or like my ability or willingness to engage in cognitive work. And when I think about mental energy, I think about another Tolstoy quote. I'm not sure why I went to a Tolstoy direction, but it's kind of working for me. And it was, if you want to be happy, be. I think it's been interesting to talk to my colleagues and have us all kind of feel like life has been on pause and we do not know how to be. We do not know how to encourage our patrons to be. And so journaling is a really good way to capture how we are being. I like journaling because it's a scheduled time to just capture what you're doing with your time and allowing yourself a moment to focus it in the direction you would like to go. I don't put any pressure on journaling. I think of it like a tool. Like I have this really cool Kamaki mold for like fish pastries that are really delicious. And it's one of my favorite kitchen tools, but I don't bring it out every day. I'm not having these delicious Japanese pastries every single day. So when I approach journaling, I try to remind folks that this isn't supposed to be another pressure point for you. But you could download like an app like Day One, or if you're looking for a little bit more security, Penzu, Penzu. One of my favorites is an app called 1 Second Every Day, where you can record just a second, and then you can kind of capture what your focus was on during the week, month, and year. A lot of libraries are doing really great work virtually with bullet journaling programs and trying to remind their patrons that as we try to navigate a work-life balance, you can kind of focus on your work bullets, you can focus on your life bullets, and you can see if there's a balance there between. Positive self-narratives are also incredibly important when we talk about our mental energy. Right now, it's hard to not see the world in a very cynical and defeated lens. And so positive self-narratives are really good for you and your colleagues as we try to refill our cup. And to me, this is just a cognitive approach that allows us to influence our self-esteem. I would give a couple of examples of positive narratives here real quick. My voice is valuable and my opinion matters. I have the right to occupy my space in the world. I am strong and will do my best today. I am still forming, and that is enough. The difference between how we frame the way we see ourselves and our navigation of the world is incredibly important. It's the difference between I am dumb versus I made a mistake. It's the difference between no one likes me and I am alone to I like me, others like me. I can reach out to them and connect in some way. It's the difference between I never get anything right and I just haven't figured it out yet. So journaling and positive self-narratives are a really good way to connect these thoughts and try to figure out what direction you want to go with your personal narrative. And personal recognition is also a piece of this as well. I think during this time, especially in the workplace, it's a good approach to honor anger as much as we do joy. We have much more comfort in a professional setting with one than the other. But I think identifying your feelings, acknowledging that they have a right to be present in a professional and safe way, and trying to make room for yourself and others is essential to filling your cup. And then identifying your currency. Today, my currency might be, I'm going to do my best to successfully go through this presentation and be as useful as I can, and maybe 5 emails. Tomorrow it may be 105 emails and I won't have this opportunity to connect, but I will go check in with my team. I think it's a negotiation that you have every single day, and you should game theory it in a way that is not only achievable, but helps to fill your cup and make you feel successful. I think it's important to define and protect your boundaries for mental energy. There are a couple of us like myself who just love to email at 3 or 4 in the morning when I start my day. But that may not be a good boundary for my colleagues. They may not want to come into a wall of emails or feel expectation outside of work hours. And so talking about those boundaries and protecting them and honoring folks' protection in a way that works for them and then the institution as a whole is something we can do to support our mental energy. And then there's rest. I think we always assign sleeping to rest, but there are different types of rest as well. Physical rest is not just sleep, it's just giving yourself time. Meditation, also creative rest. I think we've all had to be so creative in this profession and just kind of restructure service models that it's okay to have moments like this where we sit and we listen and we learn from each other and we just take information in again. I'm a painter, and every once in a while I just need to sit and watch a few documentaries, or even just Bob Ross with his happy little trees. I'm not contributing creatively, but I am refilling my creativity cup. Which leads us to physical health. I'm defining as a librarian this to be my regular exercise, my balanced nutrition, and my adequate rest, which I imagine is a unique formula for every single one of us. And Tolstoy, again, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing themselves. And when I think about physical health, I've had a great opportunity to focus on that this year. I can't change anything else around me. My environment is completely locked down and fluid and unpredictable. And so I can turn internally and decide that I'm going to give myself permission to prioritize myself. While I'm excited to answer emails and send them at 3 or 4 in the morning, it's okay to prioritize myself that is a time of rest for fun reading. Maybe I wish to go to the gym. Maybe I want to watch something on television that makes me happy. I have the right to prioritize myself. I have the right to get up every 20 minutes or so, or whatever I need to sit away from emails and phone calls and texts and do what feeds me physically. This also requires imagination, because we've put ourselves in little boxes, and now that we are noticing that the borders of those boxes are changeable, this leads to opportunity. So maybe my priority will be, I'm going to work on hydrating myself today. Or maybe my opportunity will be, I will physically remove myself from one community to another because I can imagine my health and my body and my person in a new environment. So this is giving yourself the freedom to imagine you in a new way. I negotiate wins. So looking like, for me, a negotiation could be, well, I got all my work done. I ate the way I wanted to, but I didn't hydrate the way I wanted to. So I'm going to try to work on that tomorrow. A negotiation of win could be, well, I did some stretching. I did some hydration. I am going to allow myself to have that third piece of chocolate cake. Thank you very much. They need to be what works for you. And then also embracing the journey model. You will hit destinations on your physical health journey, but you're never going to fully arrive. And that's great. That's part of it. And just accepting that this is a journey model, I think, has given me more freedom and less pressure to pursue avenues I wouldn't have explored before. And then just maintaining that safety orientation, because a lot of this is done in isolation right now. So you want to make sure you're talking to your medical professionals and your physical fitness professionals so that when you pursue these avenues, you're doing it in an informed, safe way. So here are some tips on physical health. Hydration has some really cool tools. I actually belong to a hydration challenge Facebook group because it can feel like a silly topic to just bring up willy-nilly to your colleagues, like, hey, how much water are you drinking today? But to have like a group of folks who are buying the half-gallon water bottles and making sure that they're trying to get the thing done every single day can give you a sense of fun and community. There are apps like Hydro Coach on Android, or even like Waterminder on Android and iOS that can help you to kind of remind yourself that it's time to drink a little bit of water. Stretching is obviously important too, and I use this as like a piece of my pre-meeting prep. If I can help myself and build in that time and schedule it, I will stretch before I go and I talk to my director about something important. I will stretch before like my leadership meetings, just so that that oxygen and adrenaline is getting where it needs to go for my body to do what it wants and needs. I put a little sun icon in here because if we can get vitamin D, that's obviously important too, and time in nature is good for, I think, the mind as well as the body. And then again, rest. Making sure you're scheduling time in for different forms of rest. Using those rest apps, and then also just adding routine to your life. I find rest to be much more achievable when I have actually plotted it into my life narrative. I will not purposely sit and reflect on artists and paintings and fill my creativity cup unless I slot in a time. And so I'm trying again to use that game theory to take breaks and routine some rest in so that it actually is happening. And then I like to go to the Headspace app for my breathing to try to get the full ability and lung capacity going. But I've done things on the fly when I'm working from home or working in my building and don't have the tools that I usually have at my disposal. I'll pop open YouTube and I'll go to the Mayo Clinic or the Sloan Kettering pages, and they have a lot about deep breathing and meditation from a source that I feel comfortable with. And because I'm building that in, I am noticing my mind already calming down before I do the physical resting practice. And then I go into these meetings a lot more confident and calm. And then I'm able to contribute what I would like to in this field. Social well-being is also a dimension of health, and I think it's our ability to maintain positive relationships. I think that that's been a struggle for me most of all, with our patrons, with our colleagues, with how much socializing we do in the variety of libraries that we serve. I think that this has been a piece of our wellness that as a profession, as an industry, we're going to have to kind of reconcile as we continue through the life of this pandemic. Just as one candle lights another and can light thousands of other candles, so one heart illuminates another heart and can illuminate thousands of other hearts. I think that's kind of what we do in our profession. We illuminate minds, we illuminate hearts. And it can be easy to believe that this is an introvert versus extrovert conversation, but I believe that as social organisms, this is something we need to be mindful of for our wellness, and something we'll want to be mindful of for those that we serve in libraries. So some of the ways that I fold in social well-being in my work life and in my library life is expressions of gratitude. I have the lived experience of interacting with patrons at this time, and when they come in, I thank them for taking the extra steps. I thank them for using their library. This was something I was always doing, but I want to acknowledge what is happening here, that this is unique, that this is strange, that it's taking more effort. I want to honor their contribution to the interaction. And I feel that this is important when you work with a team as well. It's a personal rule of mine to not answer or reply to any email without either thanking someone for sending it or thanking them because I'm assuming there will be a reply. And the reason that I do that is because it's kind of a cynical look at the world, but there are so many streams we're swimming up against, just as human beings on this planet. And for us to have worked through the last several months to open up our inbox and email somebody, to me, that is effort that deserves to be acknowledged. And I've noticed that expressions of joy and gratitude have fostered positive feelings when I receive them, so I want to model that behavior and support the well-being of others, if that makes sense. Some gratitude tips are that it kind of limits future tripping. Like if I know that I'm going to frame my email in gratitude, I'm not worried about the response I'm getting. I'm not trying to answer those questions before they are legitimately spoken and articulated. I'm allowing myself to speak my lines and allowing somebody else to speak theirs, and I'm in the moment with gratitude. It's savoring the beauty of the present. Because again, like, I don't know if this ever strikes you in webinars, but as many as we've sat through as a profession, they're almost like a play. It's like going to a theater and realizing that the same lines may even be spoken. We may be talking about the same concepts, but the audience is unique. And that gives an independence and a variety and uniqueness that will never exist in the world again. And I think there's something beautiful about that. And it brings an excitement that I would probably feel more in person to this format for me. I try to honor the culmination of the past. So as a person onboarding right now, or as a person who would have been working in my former library to create new structures and service models, I want to honor the way we've always done it. And I want to honor the experience and knowledge of others, because it got us here. Even if we have to flip it completely, I think taking a moment to honor it and acknowledge it helps in this process. And then I try to honor the journey of others. For example, I'm in library leadership, and I have been privileged and humbled to support teams of a variety of backgrounds, ages, lifestyles. But at the end of the day, I am a single childless person. So leaning into the experience of caregivers, of those with partners, of those who are trying to manage the pods right now, not only informs my decisions, but I think makes me better at what I'm going to do overall for our patrons. So just kind of leaning into those perspectives. And then something that I do during difficult meetings that I like to call GPS or gratitude positioning system is to take moments for gratitude. Thank you for gathering. Thank you for that difficult comment. Thank you for pausing and muting your mics. It is strategic, but it's authentic for me because this is a group of people. This is a group of your colleagues that, again, got up, opened their device, popped into their meeting software of choice, and are trying to make sense of the world we live in today and make it better for others. And so reminding them that even when that has to be messy or hard, often confrontational, it's a process, and it's okay to thank them for that process. They've shown up, and that's great. And then I think it's time to talk about normalizing grief. We've had over 400,000 Americans pass away from COVID-19, and we are all experiencing a shared global trauma. And to dispense and ignore grief in the workplace doesn't seem appropriate or productive to me. So I think that it's good, especially during this time where I'm trying to help my team here, and I tried to support my team in my previous library, to talk about how we normalize grief and make room for it, and where we want to put our finite energy, whether it's holding difficult conversations, discussing mental health with confidence and providing resources, or if it's just voicing concern and making suggestions to leadership to encourage them to head us in the right direction as a profession. So tips to normalize grief that I've picked up on are, again, kind of just celebrating our diverse perspectives. And I thought Amanda Gorman during the inauguration said it so well. Do not ignore pain, give it purpose, use it. And so we're acknowledging our shared humanity, and that so much of that is pain and loss. And we're encouraging leadership to provide mental health support and care, and we're just kind of weaving it into our conversations and making sure that they are aware that this is a priority for us as we go forward. I think it's creating a space that is safe not only for library workers, but also our patrons. And that as we think about our reopening plans and recovery plans, that this is a piece that is threaded in. And then it's advocating for industry-wide resources like this opportunity that I'm honored to have today, or the ALA, American Library Association, APA Wellness Workplace Wellness resources. Just kind of lifting those up, making sure that those resources flow to the top for all library workers, and asking for more resources that are similar. And what that means when you normalize grief is that we're allowing room for something that we haven't really before. And that means we're going to have to change the outlines of our comfort zones. And so, again, as a librarian, I've defined a comfort zone as my psychological state in which things feel familiar, and they're in a way that I can control them and have an efficacy in my job. And it's where I can have a steady level of performance. And to me, comfort zone knowledge it's actually just wisdom, because essentially a comfort zone is defining what I can and must have to work and to exist and to thrive. And so to me, a comfort zone is really just another form of wisdom. The most important knowledge is that which guides the way. So some comfort zone tips for me, especially coming in as a leader in a new team, new practices, new pathway, new work culture during a very strange time in my lifespan, I lean into learning. I lean into being open and optimistic that I can still be taught new tricks. And I'm trying to repurpose my discomfort. I loved my community and thought I would retire from the other library. I loved my patrons. That's very possessive. I loved our patrons, and I loved our community and our staff. I still do. They're wonderful. But I was so discomforted, this has been such a hard year. And if I'm going to be uncomfortable, if I'm going to be challenged anyway, I wanted to change me. And so I'm trying to, again, kind of like our poet laureate, our poet said, use the grief, use the discomfort, allow it to mold something that you can imagine works better for you. So that means embracing life's changeable nature and being okay with not being okay as much as we can. And then it's kind of examining a fixed versus growth mindset. It's a strange place for me to be, that I have not only imagined my life from a fixed point where this is the library where they're going to, like, you know, I'm gonna be like 109 years old, still checking out books, to you've moved to a new library, and now that you've allowed yourself to vision the world this way, are there other libraries? Are there other opportunities? Who will you be in 3 years? And so both mindsets are great, and just kind of allowing yourself the imagination and giving yourself permission to examine that about yourself, I think helps fill your cup. And then just recognizing self-care as the act of bravery it is. It's hard, and we are not in popular media often encouraged to take care of yourself. But in order to support others and do the good work that we do in libraries, I think we have to prioritize, and that starts with making sure we can do what we can do. So I think this means seeking community. It's meant a lot to me to see other communities out there in our profession, but it's also been great to join a new community, even though it's really only an hour and a half from where I was before. It's a brand new community and I'm learning new things. Sometimes seeking community, especially during this time, is finding virtual spaces, whether it's that hydration Facebook group, or maybe you get together and have watch parties and you watch, like, you know, all the classic Jeremy Brett Sherlocks. I don't know what that looks like for you, but just kind of exploring that and allowing yourself to create new communities, because had the pandemic not happened, you would have found new communities between now and then. And it's okay to allow yourself to focus on ways you can recapture that in this format. I do have some, the most necessary person is the one with whom you are, for no one knows whether they will ever have dealings with anyone else. And so that's why you are all the most important people in my world this morning, because I'm not guaranteed anything else. And I don't want to miss out on those communities. We're social organisms, and we're all too important to not try to connect with each other in the ways that we can. However, having said that, there are community pitfalls. Sometimes you can put too much pressure on yourself for outcomes. So I hope that you don't walk away from this experience thinking, I'm going to bullet journal, I'm going to write every day, I'm going to meet the group 3 times a week, and in a month I'm going to have like 500 pages. It's not meant to be a pressure point. I also think with hours upon hours of screen time, only you can decide what is quality over quantity. And then again, because I love this profession like you do, and we do so much good, it's easy to find library or library adjacent communities almost exclusively. And that's not always going to fill your cup. So if you can save yourself from virtual and work-life balance overload, I think that's essential. So some of my objectives have been, does this community give me respite? Will I be refreshed and rejuvenated by it? Does it support my personal wellness goals? You know, because like I love Sherlock. Probably shouldn't be watching it with a community that's doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning when I got to be up sending emails and annoying folks in an hour. Does it fill your cup? And is it building your efficacy and satisfaction with your portion of time and space? And what I mean by that is that we all have important work to do. And if it isn't contributing to your sense of mental fitness, you may have to put it on a back burner, and that's only something you can uniquely define and describe. So the most important affair is to do people good, because for that purpose alone were we sent into this life. So with those 3 answers from the wise old man, we are told that in Tolstoy's short story, the most important time is now, the most important people are those you were with, and the most important task is to do good to each other. And I imagine many of you, if not all of you, wish to connect ideas and information with people and to do good. And that's why we're in this field. But it starts with you, and it's okay to do good to yourself so that you can help and inform others. So as we navigate this environment, I guess I would just ask that as a profession, and promise to you as a member thereof that as we predict the future of libraries and think about everything that's going to have to change because the world around us has, that we thread worker wellness, library worker wellness, and patron wellness into all conversations, and that we lobby and advocate leadership and our various associations and organizations to develop and provide resources, and that hopefully wellness in libraries continues to be a prominent part of every conversation. I don't think this is silver lining, but it is a good outcome that from all of this, I've talked more about coworker and library worker wellness now than I ever did in the previous decade and a half of my experience in this field. I also wanted to let you know that there is an opportunity that if there's wellness in the workplace work happening in your institutions that you would like to laud, the American Library Association Sustainable Roundtable is going to be offering a citation of wellness in the workplace, and you can fill out that application to apply for this prize until about mid-March. And beyond that, I thank each of you for being here today. And if I can provide any additional context, this is where you can find me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. This was really great. I just kind of kicked back and got to enjoy what you were talking about. So if you have questions for Sam, we've got about 20 minutes left. Or if you, I know there were some questions early on about bullet journaling and getting started there and those kind of things. So if you want to pop those in the Q&A to make sure I don't lose them as we go through the sort of the chat. But this was really great. I started bullet journaling a couple of years ago. So are you a purist, like black and white, Sam? No, okay.
No, which is fun because then you'll present something to like a Facebook group and they'll be like either, ooh, or they'll be like, what have you done? So yes, I have my best friend is a purist too. So I always wonder how this friendship works because this feels like a manifestation of our variances.
I sort of went on a winding path where I went into a lot of things, discovered I cannot draw, and I didn't want to try. And then I got some stickers involved and have kind of, and now I'm into the colored pencils. So
wonderful.
I think it's definitely a practice I enjoy and definitely would recommend as well. So, oh great, I see a question. Ooh, let me get this out of here. All right. Is there a particular type of meditation that you practice?
No, I think I have. I wonder if, yeah, I can't commit. I'm like commitment phobic when it comes to different things because I get too excited like a golden retriever and run off and run off and run off. But I'm very fascinated by choosing a single word or a mantra and incorporating that into breathing. I find that is very useful and grounding for me because in moments where my brain, even though it should be like on automatic, isn't reminding me to breathe, for some reason it will bring up a key phrase. And I am kind of experimenting right now with some yoga. I could send those links along if you'd be interested.
I think that kind of ties into our next question is, will you be sharing the slides?
Oh, of course, it'd be my pleasure.
So, Sam, if you just want to send those, well, I don't think I have the newest version. It looked a little different. If you want to send those to me, what I'll do is I'll send those out with any other links that we kind of come up because we've got another question. So just anybody, no, I'll get those sent out to everybody. We have been doing virtual programs and I would like to incorporate wellness topics into them. Do you know of any libraries doing this that you would recommend?
Yeah, of course, this is a self-plug. I know that Burlington was doing some Wellness Wednesdays for a while, but a couple others that could be floating to the top of my head, but they're not. But I have in one of my bullet journals, I have like an inspiration list, so I could pull those. Let me write that down for Bobby too. I really appreciate when libraries do an incorporation of both experts in the community that can contribute to the conversation, but then kind of like what my approach has been today, where it's like, we're not going to all be experts about this, and sometimes just starting conversation about, chair yoga and books about it in the library that kind of is a soft entry into this concept. And so I like when libraries do a bit of both because it captures a wide spectrum of audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I know of a lot of libraries doing sort of more movement-based wellness, and Noah Lundstra's Let's Move in Libraries focuses on that. But there are some that are focused, I'm sorry?
Oh, yes, and grief even. I'm seeing that there are libraries now tackling grief groups for communities, and I'm excited about the work we're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I want to let you finish your note. I won't rush you. Okay. So our next question is, I have a problem with distraction turning into running away from challenges. Any advice on countering this?
Yeah, managing small bites. So it kind of comes back to negotiating wins, because I did this too. So I feel your feels, and thank you for sharing, because I know it's kind of hard. It can be hard to grapple. For me, negotiating wins sometimes is just, I'm going to write the first 3 sentences of this like 5.5 page email. Sometimes so then I step up and I go do something that I enjoy, like getting a cup of coffee. And I'm almost like my own terrible parent where I'm like operating conditioning myself. But I've noticed that it's a win. And then I can chase the momentum of, okay, now we're going to write 3 paragraphs, and now we're going to review the draft and read it. You know what I mean? So I would chase those little wins. I would put them into manageable bites. And again, I would know my currency. So you've already identified how you feel in the moment. So now it's kind of saying, well, I can negotiate wins. This is the carrot that will help me. All right, let's pursue that carrot. Hope that makes sense.
So our next question is, someone likes how you said not to take these ideas as another pressure point, another thing we have to do. Any suggestions on how to choose which things to do or try to focus on?
Yeah, so I think I would look at past practices. I would look at what has really helped you on your learning journey in the past. So if I'm in a meeting, I got to be touching and drawing. If I don't have Lego, then I've got my colored pencils like Bobby. And so for me, journaling made sense. But for a lot of us, it might be being outdoors, being physical, practicing meditation, yoga, and mindfulness. So if you feel like that's worked for you in the past, I would pursue that with alacrity, because you've already sort of proved to yourself those are tools that you drift to. If you're kind of lost and you haven't a clue right now because of just everything being everything, maybe try 1 or 2 and give them a good 3 weeks. And if they're not working for you, you know what? Failure is the fastest way we learn. And so you're not failed at all. You've learned something about yourself, and you can pursue new avenues. It's like Tinder for self-wellness. You just keep sliding until you find what works.
I'm going to jump around a little bit on our questions because I think this ties into the one you just answered. So another person has said, I appreciate you mentioning to make sure that these tips aren't seen or viewed as an additional pressure point. I tend to make things like journaling, fitness, etc. into another item on the to-do list, forgetting that it's meant to help me. Do you have any recommendations on how to remind yourself not to do this or to reframe your thinking about it?
Yeah, I think this is where finding your community really helps, because that is a rabbit hole I find myself in a lot, where negotiating wins, I always was like, you have to eat right and hydrate right and work right and exercise right. And if I didn't check off every single box that day, today was a failure. And so if you have folks in your life, or if you can build a community where you are having direct conversations about what was the highlight of your day? What were your 5 favorite things today? What did you rock at today? If you can't create those positive self-narratives for yourself at this time and space, find an advocate. Find somebody who can help you do that, because it is a challenge to turn life, all aspects of life, into boxes we check as accomplishments. And so I hope that's a useful answer for you, because it has been for me, where I have people who are vested in my life that care about me, that will script this, and they'll say, yeah, I know you didn't run today, but how did your meetings go? Were those good? Did you get your emails done? Did you apply for that grant? Were you kind? Did you encourage people? And you realize, oh yeah, just because I don't get every win, just because I don't win every Academy Award in the slate, doesn't mean that I didn't get Best Supporting Actor for my colleague. And it doesn't mean that like I didn't get Best Cinematography because I helped frame a project that's going to go really great. So I don't have to get Best Picture today. I'm okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if I can just sort of add in, since I've kind of been on a journey for the last couple of years with Sam, like many people, I became addicted to TikTok during the pandemic. And I will find this TikToker. She has a website, but I think one of the most groundbreaking thing, it's what her talk is that your tasks are not a moral obligation. You are not a bad person because you did not clean the kitchen, or your house isn't perfect. And I think we can apply that to work too, right? You're not a bad person if you didn't run the 5K and do everything perfect today. Those are not a reflection of your worth or your ability as a human being.
I appreciate that comment because it does take us out 10,000 more feet to look at ourselves and realize that this is kind of specious definitions of good and bad. And so these self-narratives can really run us and control us, but we're not putting tons of thought into them. So that's a really good observation.
She says it much better than I do. I'll try to find it.
Oh, no, that's great.
So this is, I think, a really important one. Is there any way you would encourage staff members to practice self-care and lean away from the stay busy, go, go, go mindset, particularly of supervisors who may be participating in that mindset and pushing stress sort of down?
Yeah, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. Super easy with folks I'd known for a decade, still kind of learning my way at 4 months in. But I think it's important as leadership to thread it into your conversations, to make it part of your agenda. So if you're meeting on a regular basis with your team, emailing them, just kind of having a piece about what are you doing to fill your cup? Is there anything that I can be doing? I like to put in wellness and optimistic TED Talks in some of my just regular emails where like, hey, checking in today, hoping your week's going well. These are the objectives we're going to accomplish while you're working from home. This was fascinating to me. If you have time to watch this about self-care, I'd like your feedback about it. And the feedback could just simply be, we're talking about a resource I found interesting in getting to know each other better and trying to help each other navigate this world. Maybe it turns into a wellness virtual program. The outcome doesn't matter. You're just extending the hand of support as you can.
That's great. Along the same theme, are there any examples you can provide of wellness for library workers? As of right now, the library is being held down by 4 people while everyone else works from home.
Oh, yeah. So I want to make sure I understand that question. So we're looking for resources in our industry that kind of support us in this time. Or are we talking about like specific practices?
The question is, are there any examples you can provide of wellness for library workers?
Okay, yes. I think that the American Library Association's wellness, workplace wellness would have some good examples of that. And then I think in some ways, like when we get into like the medical safety ways, wellness is easily defined. When we get into like the minutia and murkiness of how are you speaking with each colleague, how are we communicating information, it kind of gets to be, again, like a unique formula for each library. But for me, the examples that I've really appreciated have been my own. I've appreciated the level of communication and trust that we've placed with each other. I've really appreciated, though, the integrity and honesty to have hard conversations and lean into them, and to just kind of come together as a team and identify, this is what we need as an institution. This is what you need to accomplish that work. This is what has to happen to make sure both are achieved. And I think it's isolated down to those 3 things. And so any library that's grappling with those in a honorable and respectable way are probably doing as about a good job as you can right now in many aspects. And this is obviously coming from the experience of somebody who's been privileged to be in a workplace. But that ALA resource would probably be useful. And then if you have like specifics, I can't even imagine what it's like to hold out a building with 4 folks, but I am available and keen to offer support and an ear if you'd like to after the gathering today. Because when one of us succeeds, we all succeed. And I feel like we're only going to get here together.
Great. And then I will also add, so for those of you who haven't taken webinars from me before, that this is a theme I'd like to do for webinars on self-care and taking care of ourselves. So I will be including some past recordings and some other resources from the National Network of Libraries of Medicine when I send the resources out. So hopefully you'll find some things. Sam, people really liked your daily themes. Can you share some more daily themes?
Oh, so yeah. Sometimes daily themes are reflections. So especially like right now in my new institution, it's just reflecting on processes and reflecting on their history and reflecting on who this wonderful group of people are. And so I just allow myself to kind of like cluck my tongue and scratch my chin and think about things. And some days I know that I'm going to need a little bit more energy, or I'm going to need to pull myself out and listen. So then my theme is, I just want to be creative. I want to think about this and hear about this and soak in all this information and think about what we can do with it. And sometimes creativity means I'm using all my whiteboards. I actually have 2 whiteboards in my office. And sometimes I'm doodling, and sometimes I'm creating lists. And sometimes it's just kind of talking to another member of the leadership team and saying, what if we put all the books on the ceiling? You know, just to kind of have fun with the day. I think I've served myself best when my theme is patience, when my theme is kindness, when my theme is humility. I've had to lean into that a little bit, coming from a position where I'd been there almost half my life and I could answer all the things, to now I have to ask all the things, and I really appreciate your help during this difficult time. So, and that's helped me, because if I get a little angry with myself or disappointed with myself because, you know, my ego's taking a beating, I remind myself, isn't today's theme humility? Isn't it okay to lead in? You're achieving your goal by being humble, and think about all the opportunities you're giving your colleagues to realize that you're brave enough to say you don't know, and that you respect their perspective on this, and you're willing to ask. So I'm like, it helps with my self-narrative. It helps me to negotiate my wins. I'm going to ask about this, but I'm going to thank them for it, so I have gratitude, and it all kind of ties in together for me.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, I did not mean to unmute myself and then immediately cough. I apologize. I think our last question will probably be what to do when our normal motivations aren't as visible as it used to be. For example, most of our programs are now done as recorded videos, and we don't get to see or talk to socialize the people that we're helping one-on-one, so you're not getting that direct feedback.
Yeah. And so I think it takes some labor. It takes realizing that the quantity of what we were able to achieve is not possible right now, but the quality and the good work and the purpose still is there. So I'm always trying to capture really good comments from like our Facebook programs so that I can share those with the youth services programmers. Or when I see that, oh, look, 135 people, registered for the bullet journal, then I shoot out an email and say, wow, in adult services, really great job. You obviously have your hand on the pulse of what the community is interested in right now. Great work. And I'm just trying to acknowledge those efforts, because what I'm saying is what 10 patrons would have said at that program, and they don't have the opportunity right now. So I'm trying to be creative in identifying ways to capture that feedback, to feed into that motivation, and to honor the efforts. And what's really been cool is that even though I'm still the new guy, people are mirroring it back. I think this is already a great team, but I do notice that what you put out in the earth, sometimes it comes back to you. And so modeling that behavior has helped them to motivate me too.
Okay, great. So I don't see any more questions, and we've got about 5 minutes, so I'm going to give my spiel and do our little wrap up.
Thank you all.
This was great. I really appreciate your being here and sharing your time and expertise with us. And I want to say again to, are you all seeing my slides? I want to say again to everyone who was here, how grateful we are for your time and your attention. Let me try this again. So I'm confident you're seeing the right thing. If you like this content, we do have a couple of upcoming webinars that you might find helpful. One is next week on February 3rd, Self-Care During Stressful Times. And we have just a different perspective on taking care of yourself during COVID and everything we're all going through. And then I think this concrete recommendations for cutting through misinformation is going to be really helpful too. I'm a little more outward facing than inward facing. So if you're not a member of the National Network of Library of Medicine, please consider joining. We do offer a number of opportunities, including these training and webinars, along with free classes. I do regularly teach a 2-week free online class called Wellness in the Workplace that covers providing a healthy work environment. At this time, I do not have any more instances of that class scheduled, but you would get notified if you register. If you have an idea for a webinar, if you're doing a health initiative for your patron, if you're doing some wellness initiative, if you're providing a health and wellness initiative for library staff, or feel confident talking about the environmental and behavioral impacts on health, and you would like to present on it for the network of the National Library of Medicine, please send me an email. I want to thank everyone again. You will receive an email in 1 to 2 weeks with a link to the recording. You will also receive a link for a survey for feedback on the webinar, and we appreciate your time in sharing your feedback with us on the webinar. That helps us plan future events. And then again, if you're looking for CE credit, I do not have the MLA code, so I cannot give it to you now. I'm hoping to get it within the next week or so, and I'll be able to include it with the webinar. I just want to thank everybody for their patience. It's a trying time for all of us, and everyone is doing the best that they can. All right. Thank you again, Sam. I'm going to end the webinar for everyone. Everyone take care and have a great day.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel, or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.